welcome to this explainer. Today, we're dissecting an incredible 80-year corporate evolution. I mean, we all know the fries, right? But how exactly did a single humble barbecue drive-in engineer a system so insanely efficient that it birthed a multi-billion-dollar real estate empire literally hiding in plain sight? Let's dive right in.
Here's our agenda for today. We're going to start with the original McDonald brothers, then look at the arrival of salesman Ray Kroc. After that, we'll unpack the real estate empire, track their menu icons and global growth, and finally, wrap up with the controversies in the modern era.
All right, part 1, the original McDonald brothers.
You know, the brothers didn't just stumble into fast food dominance. They engineered it step by step. They started with a super simple hot dog stand called the Air Dome, and eventually transitioned into a pretty profitable spot called McDonald's famous barbecue drive-in. But the real magic? That happened in step 3. They made this crazy decision to completely shut down their highly successful barbecue business to create the McDonald's we actually know today. They slashed the menu down to just a few core items, mostly burgers and fries, introduced those iconic golden arches, and most importantly, they created the speedy service system. It was basically applying factory assembly line efficiency to a commercial kitchen. It was absolutely revolutionary at the time.
Which brings us to part 2. Enter salesman Ray Kroc.
So, the brothers' highly efficient local operation was humming along perfectly, but when a struggling milkshake machine salesman named Ray Kroc paid them a visit, two completely different worldviews violently collided. On one side, you've got the McDonald brothers. They were totally obsessed with perfect quality control. They'd actually tried franchising a bit, but hated losing oversight of their exacting standards, so they preferred a smaller, flawlessly run operation. But on the other side, you have Ray Kroc. When he saw their speedy system, he didn't just see a great little burger stand. No, he envisioned an aggressive, massive, nationwide franchise empire. He wanted scale, and he wanted it fast.
Unsurprisingly, this fundamental difference in philosophy sparked some intense, relentless conflict. Kroc became their franchise agent, sure, but he constantly chafed under the brothers' strict restrictions. Ultimately, this friction led to Kroc aggressively outmaneuvering them, taking over the entire company, and, in a rather ruthless historic twist, forcing the brothers to rebrand their original remaining restaurant to the Big M, before eventually putting them out of business completely. $2.7 million. That's the sum Kroc paid in 1961 to buy the brothers out entirely. To put that into perspective, back then, that was a massive amount of money. It was the definitive end of the McDonald brothers era, and it marked the dawn of Kroc's undisputed control over the brand. The stage was officially set for unchecked, explosive growth.
Moving right along to part 3, the real estate empire.
Now, this begs a really fascinating question that business scholars still debate today. Is McDonald's actually in the food business at all? Because while the public just saw a company selling 15-cent hamburgers, Kroc and his team realized a hard truth. The margins on fast food simply weren't going to be enough to sustain the massive empire they were building. They needed a totally different product.
The answer? Franchise realty. Masterminded by a brilliant financial executive named Harry Sonborn, the whole corporation shifted tactics. Instead of just taking a tiny cut of the burger sales, they began buying up the actual land and physical buildings for new restaurant locations, and then leasing them back to the franchisees at a massive markup. So McDonald's secured its financial future not just by selling burgers, but by acting as a giant real estate company. They effectively own some of the most valuable commercial dirt on the planet. Pretty wild, right?
Okay, part 4, menu icons and global growth.
Armed with a practically bulletproof real estate model and fresh off taking the company public, the brand just cemented itself into global pop culture. In 1962, the Filet-O-Fish was born, specifically to appeal to Catholic customers observing Lent. Then came the legendary Big Mac in '67, followed by the Quarter Pounder in '71. By 1979, they completely changed the family dining experience with the invention of the Happy Meal, and then, well, they introduced cult classics like the McRib in 1981. Each of these iconic menu items acted as a sort of Trojan horse, helping the brand adapt to local demographics while driving massive, massive repeat business.
But the empire expanded far beyond just individual sandwiches. The true foundational pillars included brilliant, immersive marketing, like the birth of Ronald McDonald and the whole McDonaldland universe. Then you have monumental operational innovations like the drive-thru. Oh, and the game-changing breakfast menu. Spearheaded by the Egg McMuffin, they literally turned previously unused morning hours into billions of dollars. Add in the culinary innovations of Chef René Around, who helped develop the Chicken McNugget, and an aggressive push into international markets, and you've got an unstoppable corporate machine.
And that brings us to Part 5, Controversies and the Modern Era.
Naturally, when you build an empire of this massive size, you inevitably face serious friction. The late 90s and 2000s forced the company to pivot sharply in response to changing public perceptions. They faced intense public and legal scrutiny, like with the famous hot coffee court case, and they navigated immense pressure from health documentaries like Super Size Me, which, impartially speaking, triggered a massive societal conversation about fast food and health standards. But just look at how they adapted. They phased out supersizing entirely. They rolled out these sleek, modernized, forever young restaurant remodels with the brown roofs and stone exteriors. They introduced the highly lucrative McCafe coffee line to compete directly with specialty coffee shops, and even initiated sustainability efforts like the Mackay Hive, showing a real shift toward modern corporate responsibility.
So if there's one thing you should really take away from all this, it's the image of a profoundly resilient juggernaut. Even with the passing of its founders, Dick McDonald and Ray Kroc, and the fading away of early relics, the company has continuously reinvented itself to survive. Throughout the 2010s, they kept tweaking the formula, introducing premium items like Angus burgers and variations on classics like the Grand Mac. It just proves that their true secret sauce isn't ketchup or mustard, it's relentless corporate adaptability.
So after analyzing this incredible 80-year evolution, we're left with a massive open question. We've seen them evolve from a dusty, single air dome stand into a dominant global real estate and food empire. So how will this fast food giant continue to adapt to the rapidly changing tastes, technologies, and health standards of the next century? Ultimately, what are the Golden Arches going to serve up next? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this structured look back gives you a whole new perspective the next time you hit the drive-thru. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.